Today is the 8th sewing marathon for 2024. We will be sewing up the As You Wish pattern from K.dill Handmade. K.dill Handmade is one of my favorite designers because she has a wonderful way of writing a pattern so that it comes together in a very common sense way that still has a unique look and has interesting features. Besides K.dill Handmade being one of my favorite designers, Kathy, the owner, is also one of my favorite people. Now, I'm not saying Kathy's my favorite person, but she's definitely in the top 10. The sewing marathons are a way for us to have a fun day supporting a designer, but also a way for us to see that as sewists, we are all unique in our approach and our vision for a pattern. During my sewing marathons, my tutorials tend to be more relaxed and just a more fun way to sew the pattern. Now let's go ahead and go over the pieces and kind of talk about the prep work and the first steps for creating the As You Wish pattern from K.dill Handmade. The only thing that can be confusing, I think, about this pattern is that you might feel kind of overwhelmed with some of the pieces, not knowing where they go. So I do want to spend a little bit of time kind of breaking it down. I have this broken down into 3 components. The first and the easiest component to talk about is that gusset. You cut 2 gusset pieces, an exterior and a lining piece. I'm choosing honestly to use vinyl for both of my pieces. Yes, I'm using vinyl for my interior, but it is a very soft vinyl. This vinyl and this other one as well are for my little shindig. It would probably be the same weight, honestly, as a waterproof canvas. It's just a little squishier, a little softer feel. Love it. So these are my 2 gusset pieces. I do have 1 layer of thermolan cut out of my seam allowance attached to the back of the exterior gusset. The way we attach our strap on this bag is we use this unique feature. This is a piece of webbing cut to the measurements given in the pattern. I did fold it down on the edges and attach a D-ring. All of this is in the pattern, all this information, how far you turn it down and everything. What I do then is I take that webbing and I just glue it on here. I center it on the piece and I glue it on. I have not sewn it yet. I will sew it, but I want to have everything kind of organized so it's easier for me before I sit down the machine. So this is how you get your gusset started. I will go ahead and sew a rectangle around this webbing off camera just to get it out of the way, but that is the first thing I do is go ahead and take care of that gusset piece. The next thing I want to talk about is the front and main body. So for the front, we have this slip pocket. This is where you will attach your magnetic snap or part of your turn lock if you're doing that on the front slip pocket. So for me, this is going to be the exterior front slip pocket. I went ahead and attached my snap. I did add a tag. I haven't sewn it on yet. I'll do that off camera. And then I did add a piece of thermoline, keeping it out of the seam allowance. And this is the lining piece. Now these materials are all going to be from K&A Custom Fabrics. They're not available today, but they will be available for pre-orders. I will have the link for these if you are an Akatar fan. This is the print. This is the Night Core. It is a book series from Sarah J. Maas that I love, but this is your front slip pocket. These are my 2 main panel exterior pieces. This is the main part of the bag. My front slip pocket will be like this on here. I do have a layer of the thermolan on both of the front and back exterior, kept out of the seam allowance once again. I also use that same pattern piece to cut out my 2 lining pieces. Again, like I said, I'm choosing to use that very soft, very flexible vinyl, so I'm not adding anything. The pattern does call for a zipper pocket. I'm not doing anything to these. I'm keeping this simple. You could add a slip pocket, a zipper pocket, whatever you want, but this will be my lining. That's done for that part. Then we come over to that last component. So for this last component, I have a couple things. I have the flap. This is going to be the front exterior flap. This is a main feature. You can see I'm using a panel here. I also have another tag that I'm going to sew onto this. I have thermolan attached to the back of that, kept out of the seam allowance. So here is the flap for the lining. I do have the snap attached to it. I also have a tag on this. We will sew this a little bit later, but just note that it is a different shape than the front exterior flap. So we talked all about the front pieces and the flap. The last thing we need to do, and I keep it in that same component because they all kind of go together, but we have a back pocket. This is going to be a zippered pocket. I have my exterior, the thermolet on it. I have my lining. On these lining pieces, I didn't really note, but these are a cotton canvas. K&A has a very sturdy cotton canvas. I don't add anything to them. And then I have the lining piece for that back pocket. You have your zipper tape that is going to attach here, and then you will have your zipper tabs, 2 of them. And those are the main pieces that I'm using in this tutorial. The only other thing I have is I've went ahead and made my strap. I'm just using my strap out of the same webbing that I'm using on that gusset piece. Very simple strap. I have several tutorials on how to make a strap, but if you need any help, just let me know, of course. There are a few things I'm going to do off camera. I'm going to sew around all the tags. I have 3 tags in total on this bag. I have not decided for sure yet if I'm using a Marathon Society to tag. I already have 3. Do I want a 4th one? If I do, I will put it on last minute on this lining piece. But I'm going to sew on all my tags, and then I will sew the webbing onto this gusset piece. Also, while I'm off camera, I'm going to make a couple marks on my main body pieces, those main panel pieces, the front, back exterior, the front back lining, because I am doing this as a drop-in bag. I feel like it's so much easier, and that's just what I prefer to do. So I will make the marks at the tops of each of these. The pattern tells you how far to make them, and then we'll be back and start working on the real construction of this pattern. I'm going to start by sewing the front slip pocket together. We have an exterior and a lining. On mine, you can see I already have my magnetic snap, and I do have a tag on there. I take these 2 pieces, I just place them right sides together, and I'm just going to use the seam allowance skin the pattern to sew across the top edge. I first got to know Kathy when I joined her tester team. We quickly bonded over all things Bigfoot and striped fabrics. David Thompson is supposedly the first person to have ever found a Bigfoot print. This was in Alberta, Canada, and it was on January the 7th, 1811. Side note, Canadians prefer their milk in bags. Yes, plastic sacks of milk is what you will find in the grocery store in Canada, and they call it a milk bladder. I trimmed the seam down with a set of pinking shears, and now I'm just going to flip these 2 pieces wrong sides together. I start at the corner here and start rolling that seam down, and then I'm just going to top stitch along that top curved edge that we just sewed. The first documented Bigfoot sighting in the United States was actually in California in the year 1870. Side note, California is one of the country's biggest producers of fruits and nuts and is known as the salad bowl of America. Even more random side note, the stickers on fruit in your grocery stores are actually edible. Even the glue adhesive that is used to attach them to the fruit is regulated by the FDA and is consumable. Now that we have this slip pocket finished, let's go ahead and pull out one of those exterior main panels and baste it into place. I am just going to make sure that the sides and the bottom match up. Of course, we'll have the gap at the top. And now I'm just going to baste with 1/8 of an inch around the sides and the bottom. Washington State has the most Bigfoot sightings. Mount Rainier specifically has had 528 sightings since 1995 alone. Kathy and I have a favorite Bigfoot book, and it is about Mount Rainier and Bigfoot. Random fact for no reason, in Japan, the pizza company Domino's has actually tried to use reindeer for their delivery vehicles. Now I'm going to work on that back pocket. For me, this is the only zipper I'm putting on this bag. So I have one zipper with the pull attached and the 2 zipper tabs. I'm just going to take a zipper tab and place it right sides together with the zipper, so across it with the seam allowance given the pattern, and then pull it back and top stitch it. I'll do that on both sides just to get the zipper prepped. Okay, now that you have your zipper prepped, you need to pick your exterior piece, and I'm sitting here going back and forth as to which one I want my exterior piece to be. I think I'm going to go with the print for the exterior. I do have the fleece attached already to this one, but it's not going to cause a problem at all. I want my pull to close to the left on the zipper, so I'm just going to take it and flip it down right sides together and match up the top. I'm going to add some clips, and I'm going to go ahead and clip on that lining piece just to save some time today. I had the zipper centered and clipped onto that exterior. Now I'm going to take that lining piece and just place it right sides together, making that traditional zipper sandwich, and I'll clip along the top edge here as well. So now I'm going to sew through all 3 of those layers to get that zipper attached to the back pocket. The state of Washington passed an ordinance in 1969 to make it illegal to kill a Bigfoot. Killing this endangered creature could actually result in a year in jail, a $1,000 fine, or even both. In Arizona, if you cut down a saguaro cactus, you can be charged with a Class 4 felony and penalized with jail time. Trim up any overhang that you may have with your zipper tabs. Go ahead and flip these 2 pieces so that they are wrong side together. I'm just going to clip a little bit around the sides and the bottom. Now what I want to do is I'm going to top stitch from one edge to the other to just get a nice clean top stitch on this and to secure these pieces down so that that lining will not slip up and get in the way of the zipper when opening. Go ahead and pull out that back lining piece and let's lay it right sides up. Take this completed back pocket and you're going to place it right sides up. So the linings will be together, and we're going to make sure it should line up perfectly, but we're going to make sure and clip it along this top edge with the zipper, and we're just going to base that in place so that that way the pocket is functional and ready for the next step. I'm just basting 1/8 of an inch away along this top edge. I'm going to go ahead and baste the rest of the way around just to make this one complete unit and easier for the next steps. Go ahead and pull out your front flap, and now what we're going to do is we're going to flip it right sides together with that back pocket, line up that top edge, and now we're going to come in and sew this with the full seam allowance. Now what we're going to do is we're going to flip the flap panel only up. So whenever we look from the back, we can see that that seam allowance is going to go up, but everything else is going to stay down. We're going to top stitch above the zipper that will attach the flap to the seam that we just sewed. So we'll top stitch just 1/8 of an inch away from that sewn folded edge. Scientists have discovered that Bigfoot is indeed nocturnal. Most of the sightings have been at night. Now that we have this part taken care of, I'm going to get this pull out of the way, not because I need it open, just because I don't want to sew on it. I'm going to go ahead and grab out my flap piece. I'm going to lay these right sides together. I'm going to make sure they match decently. If I need to do any trimming, I can. But what we do is we sew from this point up and around. We do not sew down here. So like this curve, I will sew with that seam allowance and go all the way around. I'll backstitch really good here, go all the way around, backstitch really good here, and this part will still be completely unattached. So when you put your foot down at that curve, make sure that this spot right here is going to be in line with your seam allowance guide. And so that will be where you start, and that'll be the exact way you end. That's how you kind of know where to start and stop on this flap piece. Completely random fact that won't help you at all in your life. The Hershey Kiss got its name because the machine that makes the kisses makes a kissing sound whenever the chocolate falls from the machine onto the conveyor belt. I'm going to go off camera and make some small snips around these curves, and then I'm going to turn this right sides out and we'll come back to top stitch. So I have it turned right side out. I have it clipped just to kind of help hold things in place, and I'm going to top stitch. We are going to top stitch from the exact spots where we started sewing initially to where we ended, so all around this edge here. Family structure is very important in Bigfoot communities. The alpha male is the one who is in charge of leading the family. The female is the one who is raising the young children. The older kids are the ones teaching the younger kids how to hunt and survive in the wilderness. Random bizarre fact, the tongue is the only muscle in the body that is only attached on one end. Very random fact, I said in the beginning of this video that Kathy was definitely not in my top position as friends. That position is reserved for my dear friend Rebecca, and just so you know the level of commitment you have to be in that position, I was bothering her all night last night, convinced that I was going to sew the lining of the flap of this bag upside down. I was so scared, and she seriously had to talk me down, show me pictures, and I still was too nervous to use a directional print on the lining. I did, however, add a tag, which was a big step, all thanks to her. Now at this point, you should have only one exterior main panel left. I'm going to clip the bottoms of these pieces together, and I might need to do some trimming. I usually do. I'm the worst with not needing trimming. And so I'm going to grab out that main panel piece that I have left, and I'm going to attach it to this. I'm going to trim down this overhang here first. I can semi trim it down, and then we will come back to base that in place. There is my last exterior piece. I'm going to place it right sides up. I'm going to take this completed unit and place it right sides up on top. It'll match on the sides and the bottom, but we will have that overhang, which we want here at the top. So when I base this, I'm going to kind of hold my hands down to make sure I don't have any kind of like puckering or bubbling, and everything is a really nice finish. So we're just basting around those raw edges just 1/8 of an inch, and that will have our exteriors completed, and for me, my linings are completed. Dr. Jane Goodall, the famous chimpanzee researcher, is also a believer in Bigfoot and has went on record as saying that she does believe. Random fact, a cluster of bananas is called a hand. Even more random, a single banana is called a finger. Let's go over the pieces we should have at this point. Here is my back. Here's my front. I have my 2 lining pieces. I did add the tag on that one. And then I have my gussets. What we're going to do now is we are simply going to attach the gussets to the bag panels. I'm doing a drop-in version, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing for the exterior and the lining, but I'll have 2 gusseted bags sewn, then I'll just drop the lining inside. If you have not made the marks on the tops of your pieces, be sure to do that now. It's not a necessity, it just helps you in the end. And we're just going to start with our front and our gusset. The way we do this is we will match up the center marks on our gusset piece and our front panel. We'll clip along and then we're going to sew. I'm going to go off camera to clip everything together, so when I come back we'll sew it together. But we're just going to clip the gusset and the front right sides together. Here is the front exterior. I have the slip pocket there. You can see the magnetic snap, and I have the gusset clipped all the way around. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to start sewing here at the side and go all the way around with the seam allowance given the pattern, making sure, of course, I back stitch when I start and stop. Bigfoot is often compared to Yeti. These are not the same. Yeti is Bigfoot's cousin, obviously. Yeti is also known as the Abominable Snowman and lives in the Himalayas. So that is nowhere near Bigfoot. Completely different animals, just so you're sure on that. Random fact, cats are also left or right pawed. Females tend to be more right pawed and males tend to use their left paw more commonly. Have you noticed that my random facts are becoming more and more random and more bizarre? I think I really need to, in my next video, kind of bring them in a little bit more. Okay, I just want to peek and look at this. I lost my seam allowance once right here. I was so focused on my random facts, but I don't think it's enough to do anything. So everything looks good there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the back piece and attach it that exact same way to this gusset. I'm also going to do the same thing with the lining. And due to the miracles of filming, I have the lining already done. So this is what everything will look like when it's completed. Wanted to show you the next technique we'll be doing, which is the drop-in lining. Kathy gives us the amount as to where to draw the line, how far down from the top to draw the line, I mean. What you do then is you're just going to go around the exterior and the lining and clip that down. You could use double-sided tape if you wanted to. I do not. I'm just going to clip this down and fold it to that line all the way around, even on the sides on both the lining and exterior. So when I come back, you will see that I have both the exterior and the lining completed and clipped down. The last step will just be to drop this inside the exterior, sew around that top, and then we're done and we have a new bag. So here is my lining with the ends clipped under to that line that I drew, and then here is the exterior the same way. You can see there's the flap. It is not involved in any of the clipping, and so all I do now is simply put the lining inside here. I re-clip so that these are both clipped together, the lining and the exterior, and then I just sew all around. So while clipping around, I realized that I was going to have to turn this inside out because I'm using a thread from Wizardry. I'm not putting that thread in my bobbin yet. I'm not for sure how my bobbin will deal with it. I haven't tried it. So I turned it inside out so that I can sew on the exterior and have that pretty thread on the exterior. So while I'm sewing, I'm just going to make sure that my exterior and lining are staying together, that one's not shifting above the other, and I'm just going to go slow, 1/8 of an inch away, all the way around, and just getting that perfect top stitch on here. So here's what it looks like after I did the top stitching. Just so you know, that flap is tucked in there completely. We're not sewing around any of that, so just ignore it while you're sewing. It's time to turn everything out. Everything looks great. Not perfect on my top stitching, but that's okay. I think I had a couple of spots where the lining will be poking through from the exterior. I'm going to change my angle really quick so we can see this bag really well. Wow, look at how amazing this turned out. This is stunning. I have everything completed. I'm ready to use this. I'm using materials from K.dill Custom Fabrics. The vinyl, both this blue cowhide vinyl and this very soft vinyl on the inside, is both from my little shindig. You can see I used it all throughout. It looks great. Webbing for the strap and this connector is from Brittany from the Emporium. Zipper tape is from So Majestic. All of my tags are from Heartwood and Hide. I'll have the links for the pattern and everything I used in my description. The fabric is not available right now. It will be a pre-order. It'll be available, I think, next week, but I will have the link there so you can watch it. And if you're in the K.dill Custom Fabrics group, you will see whenever it goes live. You can even request a tag for that pre-order. Brittany, I think, has the webbing on retail. If not, she'll have it soon. The vinyl is available on retail now. Of course, the pattern's available now. And just a few more random facts before we end this video. Random fact number 1, when Kathy first showed me this pattern, I commented immediately that my favorite part was the side boob that the bag is showing. Second, if you are new to my channel, this is not the way my typical videos go. I don't give random facts in all my videos. It's just something that I've started doing while we are sewing up the marathon, so don't be alarmed. I know some people probably really wish I would not do that because it can be kind of annoying, but it's just for the marathons. It's the only time I'm a little more chatty in my videos. So, and if you are new to the channel, welcome, and please subscribe. I'd love to have you stay here. And so thank you so much for coming and watching another tutorial. Thanks for chatting with me. Thanks for all the other sewists who are sewing along today. Thank you to Kathy, of course. It's always such a fun day on Marathon Day. And this fabric is a reference to one of my favorite book series. If you haven't read it, I do highly suggest reading it. It's a great series. And I hope today in your sewing room that you're able to sew something that is from a book series that you love too, because books are my second favorite hobby next to sewing. Thanks so much, and I hope everybody has a great day and gets to continue enjoying the marathon.